are here to take forward the third panel discussion for the day. The theme of which is advancing in the era of new age digitalization opportunities and challenges. The focus of today's discussion would be that how digital technology is reshaping the business model of every industry, and the insurance sector is no exception to such developments. It is leading to possibilities of new methods of service provision and greater opportunities for data collection, leading to better risk identification and mitigation measures. This panel would serve as a discussion forum on how we work on these opportunities as well as challenges of this new era.
For this interesting discussion round, our experts in the panel are Mr. Anirudh Marathe, Boston Consulting Group, Mr. Prerak Sethi, RIA Insurance, Mr. Anand Pejawar, SBI General Insurance, Mr. Saravir Singh, Policy Bazaar, Mr. Nikhil Kure, Finurk and Analytics.
Now I request all the eminent experts to kindly come up on the stage and form the dais. Now, I would like to request my colleagues to welcome the experts with a bouquet. Before the discussion begins, let us take this opportunity to introduce all the eminent personalities.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting you the moderator for the discussion, Mr. Anirudh Marathe. Mr. Anirudh is a core member of Boston Consulting Group's financial institution and insurance practices. Prior to joining BCG, he has served as director at KPMG Management Consulting Group. Mr. Anirudh has close to 15 years of rich consulting experience across insurance and banking. His areas of expertise include digitally enabled distribution and deployment of big data analytics in insurance value chain. Sir has amply contributed towards several reports on the insurance sector published by BCG and is deeply engaged in the insurance ecosystem by entailing with the Ministry of Finance, IRDAI, Life and General Insurance Councils, and FICCI Insurance Committee. He also holds a postgraduate degree from Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow.
Mr. Prerak Sethi. Mr. Prerak is CEO and founder of RIA, an insurtech company, co-founder of India Insurtech Association and advisor to multiple insurtech startups. Prior to founding RIA, he has over 15 years of experience across various industries such as insurance, analytics, e-commerce and consulting. He has also launched one of India's first website for health insurance and has co-authored a book on the same subject. Mr. Prerak has strong hands-on expertise in building online platforms, tech and data, product management, customer acquisition and retention, and UI UX. Mr. Prerak is a graduate from University of Michigan and MBA graduate from Kellogg School of Management.
Mr. Anand Pejawar is an industry veteran with over 39 years of professional experience with BFSI industry. Sir has profusely contributed 20 years in life insurance and 18 years with the banking and financial distribution industry. He has been instrumental in setting up the most productive integrated model of bancassurance and microinsurance in SBI Life Insurance, which is today considered as a trend setter in the sector. He has also represented life insurance sector in various committees formed by Government of India, IRDAI and RBI. Mr. Anand has been recipient for numerous honors, latest being the Mumbai Ratna Award conferred to him by the Governor of Maharashtra. Apart from the achievements, Mr. Anand is an alumnus of Columbia Business School.
Mr. Saravir Singh. Mr. Saravir is CEO at Policy Bazaar and is helmed for the overall business performance of the company. Prior to joining Policy Bazaar, he was a venture capitalist and has served in several senior leadership positions with digital and media companies. Over his career, he has led venture investments in industry-leading companies like BookMyShow, Yatra, Doubtnut, Ziploan, and WebChutney. He has also served as a founding managing director of Capital 18, Network 18's venture arm, and as a regional advisor to JP Morgan PEG for their investments in India. He was accountable for leadership position with Citigroup in New York and Emerson Electric in Hong Kong. Mr. Saravir is a graduate of IIT Delhi and holds an MBA degree from IIM Ahmedabad.
Mr. Nikhil Kure, a young, talented, and dynamic entrepreneur, co-founder and CEO of Finerkin Analytics. Finerkin provides supports to organizations to publish, consume data, and derive information on India's public digital goods. He works with leading life and general insurers today, helping them experiment, iterate, and navigate this new age open digital ecosystems. His previous work experience includes a software engineer with EQ Technology. Apart from this, he holds an engineering degree from the University of Pune.
Now, I will kindly request the moderator to take the discussion forward.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure and honor to be with all of you here and moderate this discussion on advancing in the era of new age digitization and opportunities and challenges for the same. I have really eminent panelists with me. I'll just set the context in just a couple of slides as we go ahead. Today, the insurance industry is clearly at an inflection point, and we are 2 decades down from the liberalization of the sector. And in the last 20 years, the insurance industry, in terms of if you compare the GWP plus APE, which is a measure of premium for life and general insurance companies, it has grown by 15 times in the last 20 years. And let me put this in perspective. The Indian GDP in the same period has grown 6.5 times. So the insurance industry has grown at a rate which is more than double of the Indian GDP. So it has obviously seen that kind of a phenomenal growth. But at the same time, interestingly, only 15% of the insurance need, and I'm talking only about life and health here, is covered. And what do I mean by insurance need? It is not just number of people who have got insurance, but also about the extent to which their need or the amount of insurance that they have. And there are various estimates in this, but this is broadly the number in the vicinity. Clearly, a missing link is out-of-pocket expenses for OPD and labs and various other elements for healthcare. In life insurance, the coverage vis-a-vis the income is clearly inadequate. And let me now bring the digital perspective to it. All of us have seen what digital has done in various segments of financial institutions. And the third box that you see on this page is 30% of bank account holders. And you can imagine today, after Jan Dhan, we have a very, very large number of bank account holders. The number of customers are clearly in excess of 80-90 crore. 30% of them use mobile banking. Now that is a very large number, and it covers public sector, private sector banks. It covers urban as well as rural customers and across age groups. But against that backdrop, if I were to look at the insurance sales through digital channels, and if you look at the engagement of users on the insurance company apps, that number is less than 5%, which effectively says, one, that there is a headroom. Now, headroom by necessarily doesn't mean there is potential, right? It's just a headroom. For it to convert into potential and that for us to realize that potential, there are different imperatives for the industry, for the stakeholders, for the customers that have to work out. And therefore, when I look at digital in the context of insurance, there are 6 themes that come across. The first one is just the digital enablement of traditional channels. It's a very large channel base that we have in the country, whether it is agents, bancassurance partners, brokers. There is a very large base of distributors. How you digitally enable them, what kind of productivity apps, what kind of customer illustration apps that you can give them. The second is online distribution, and we have Sarabjit here. Many companies, apart from the web aggregator model, are also trying to reach out to the customers directly. There are digital partnerships which are happening. There could be a digital ecosystem that get created, so that is a reach out to the customers directly. The third element is end-to-end customer journey digitalization. What it means is that when the customer comes or buys the insurance policy, the entire journey of fulfillment, policy issuance, servicing, claim settlement, renewal, everything should become end-to-end digital without any paper form, without any wet signature, without any interface, ideally of a manual physical nature. No doubt, for this to be achieved, the role of data is absolutely critical. How you can use data analytics across different use cases, across different journeys, across the different elements of value chain, whether it is sales, whether it is underwriting and pricing, whether it is claims, customer service, everywhere use of data analytics becomes important. We are all blessed with, in India today, a very significantly advanced public digital infrastructure. All of us obviously know that UPI, but UPI is not just a successful payment system, it is the best payment system in the world at this point in time. And you can trust me because I'm a consultant and I do this for a living in terms of comparing and benchmarking different payment systems. India's digital infrastructure is at par with the world's best at this point in time. But that's necessary and not sufficient. We need to have industry-specific digital platforms, insurance-specific digital platforms and ecosystems that need to get built. This sets up for my discussion with the panel members today, and I'll now join them. Thank you very much for this short note from my end. Thank you.
Gents, honor to be with all of you today. I'll start the discussion, Sarbvir, with you first. Digital distribution is obviously growing very rapidly, and you've been in this business for a very long time. What kind of customer shifts, behavior shifts do you see, and especially as we penetrate in tier 2 and smaller towns, what kind of observations, experiences do you have?
Sure. First, I want to thank NIA for inviting me to be part of this panel. Really happy to be here. I think, Anirudh, as you asked, I think there has been a tremendous shift in the Indian customer over the last, I would say, 3 years specifically, but even if you look back over 5-7 years, I think all of us have got used to working in a digital world. We all use WhatsApp and we buy stuff from Amazon or Flipkart, order food, order cabs. So I think the Indian customer has gone from a perspective where things were very different. Like 10 years ago even, you could not return a product that you had bought. It was not common in India for you to be allowed to return products. But after the e-commerce companies came in, now we all think nothing about returning products. People even, I was horrified to learn that people even order different clothes and then just keep the ones that they like and return the ones that they don't like. So I think that is something which was only possible in the West and is now possible here. So that has changed the perspective of people, and insurance is no different than that. we get lots of emails and sometimes messages from our customers saying that if Amazon can give me a refund in one day, why are you not giving me my money back? And no amount of explanation about whether it's insurance, is a regulated industry, the money has to come back from the insurance company, etc., etc. There are all good reasons for it, but from a customer perspective, that is just not good enough. So I think first thing as an industry that we all are learning, and I think we are all trying to do a good job of, is to match the expectations of the customer. And the expectations have completely changed. From a time like, if you think of it, it's almost magical. Today, and nobody in this room will think that their phone should not work 24/7, 365 days a year. But many of us, or some of us who have been around in this country, know that there was a time when phones barely used to work, 3-4 times a week. So things have changed totally. Now, coming to whether it's tier 2 or tier 3, I would actually suggest that we should look at India in a slightly different way. India is not so cleanly divided between 1, 2, and 3 based on urban, rural, or any such simple, definition. There are people of different strata of society in all cities. So in Delhi or in Bombay, there will be tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 India is present right within probably 5 kilometers of this fantastic hotel that we are all in. So the challenge is that those different people, they live in different places and they could be all in the same city together. How do you address them and how do you, move on them? And one of the things that we have been helped by a lot is COVID. Because of COVID, two things happened. One is that we were forced to operate digitally. There was no other way to do business. Secondly, the regulator, especially in insurance, was very, very proactive. They made changes right upfront in COVID, including the fact that, policies could be only digital, you do not need a wet signature, etc., etc. So for once, we all learned how to work in a digital world, which of course for Policy Bazaar was very good, because that is something that we had been trying to drive for a long time. And if you see what has changed is, just to give you some numbers, about 4-5 years ago, less than 30% of our business used to come outside the top 10 cities, as you would expect, because we were a digital internet company. But now, last year, 60% of our business came from outside the top 10 cities. So the shift has been dramatic. I think the shift has also been caused by the fact that people in these cities, like I remember during COVID, we used to see suddenly cities spike up in our, when we looked at our data, that somebody in that city discovered that you could buy a policy online. And more people from that city then started buying. So suddenly that city would spike up. So that is the nature, that people were not aware that you could do something like this. They were only aware that you had to buy through an agent. Now suddenly when they became aware, they obviously gravitated towards it. And I think this is one change which will remain, and clearly it will build as we go forward also.
That was a very good insight. Thanks, Sarbir. Anand, coming to you, web aggregator Policy Bazaar is obviously a very focused distribution play, no doubt. But as an insurer, right, when you look at the digital distribution, and it can come directly through the reach out to the customers or other partnerships beyond Policy Bazaar or web aggregators, how do you see this picture evolving? What kind of experiences do you have? What kind of learnings that the industry has on this?
Thanks, Anirudh. First of all, thanks, Srinivasan sir, for inviting me and making me a part of this illustrious panel. My experience has been mixed, and why I'll say, because a major part of my insurance I have spent in life. I was in SBI Life earlier. Now I'm SBI General. So I'll give you examples of both, live examples, okay? Both these companies were formed by banks and cater to bank customers. So we had a big issue as to if we start a digital channel, which is D2C, whether it will have any direct impact on my banker customer, okay? Thanks to friends like Policy Bazaar, they used to do this fantastic analysis of the product. So my initial thing was that people went by, I call them ROPO, refer online, purchase offline, okay? So they would refer his website, find out which is the best product available, and then probably go back to their distributor, which is the physical distributor, and buy the product. That was something about 5-7 years back when they started. Slowly this thing started changing. One of the examples of D2C that I would like to give you is when State Bank of India launched their app called YONO, You Only Need One. And I was called by the chairman and said, I want a product, a life insurance product, which should be made available to the customer in 3 clicks. So we were like, 3 clicks, not possible. He said, why? I said, the form itself is 16 pages. So no way it can happen in 3. Then I need my health questionnaire to be filled. No possible. And then finally the payout has to happen. He said, no, the customer is changing. The customer is now looking at Amazon, Flipkart and all these things where he can buy in 3 clicks. I want you to come out with a solution in 3 clicks. And in 2018, we actually developed a product on YONO platform, which the customer of State Bank of India could buy 2 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakhs, 40 lakhs of pure term product just on 3 clicks. Not only that, on the 3rd click, when the money got transferred from the customer's account to SBI Life account, the COI got landed on the YONO platform instantaneously. So even at 11:58 at night, if you click the pay button and the payment got made, 11:59 the COI would reach your YONO platform. So that's
COI is commission.
No, it's the certificate of insurance.
Certificate.
So that was the first test on digital, how you could do that. Okay, so that, again, most of the insurers will do that when there is ecosystem forces you to change. So that was one of the example of how the promoter and the major distributor wants you to do something and the ecosystem is telling you, you have to change and you have to change, okay? So that's the first way of looking at it. Then we went one step forward. We said, as rightly said by you, what was the reason for people not to buy insurance? People not to buy insurance was too difficult to understand, and especially online. Too difficult to understand, complex products, there is no assistance available. I'm always used to an agent coming and telling me which product I should buy and everything, a whole lot of things. When we did a research, one huge thing we found was that 13% of the population in metro and urban were not comfortable using your application. And 10% were not ready to put confidential information on that application because they were not sure whether that information would get leaked out. So that was the reason why they were not using or taking it on the direct, either on the website or the application where you were offering your product. So the question here was, how do you make this simpler? How do you get it to a position where it is there? So even on the life side, in 2017-18, we completely came out with a digitized system. And when I say digitized system, right from sourcing of the policy to issuance of the policy, completely paperless, penless. I think we were the first companies to come out with the paperless, penless. And we went into the ecosystem. We thought that there's too much of information available in the ecosystem with the permission of the customer, tied up with NSDL, credit bureaus, IIBI, a whole lot of things which is there, except the medical reports. Every other information that you need to issue a policy was available. You just pull it out, through integrations, get it done, and policy gets issued. So that was the second thing that we did. Now coming to the general side, which are the products which are available or taken most on the thing, travel, health, motor, and PI. These are typically 4 which happens. Motor is, at 12 o'clock at night, your policy is going to end. So 11:30 at night, you're sitting, you buy a policy and you come out of it. Can you make this process simpler? Can you put it, I think most of the guys, even now when I'm talking, some of the guys are watching WhatsApp. Okay, so can we put this on a WhatsApp and make WhatsApp the platform to buy this policy? And we got it done. We got it done in such a manner where there are bots which are available. You put the bots, it starts just chatting with you, picks up the information, gets it automatically on the application form, and the policy gets issued. So it's not an issue that people are not ready to buy. There are some inhibitions in certain people, even tech-savvy, financially savvy people who don't want to get into this particular thing. Like I know so many of the bankers who don't like to go for GPay. They say, no, we don't believe in that. So we will not use GPay. Whatever you want to do, we'll do a direct thing, okay? So yes, now slowly the awareness is growing, but people are still cautious because of a lot of frauds happening, data getting leaked out. You immediately start getting calls, so they don't know whether the company is making a call or some guy is trying to defraud you by doing that. But yes, if you see the penetration of the digital sales, it's moving, but it's inching. It's not something exponentially that
take
you
off.
see which goes off?
That's very interesting. Nikhil, let me come to you. For, for whatever Sarbjeet and Anand said, for it to become reality, for it to really appeal to the customers, data and analytics has to play a very massive role. You know, it works in the background, which people don't realize when they start buying online or through the digital intermediation. What kind of use cases, what kind of applications of analytics do you see gaining traction going forward? Obviously, there are a few which are there right now. And the second related question is on the data quality, because often insurers, distributors suffer because of data quality issues. What do you think would be the imperatives on that front?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, NIA, for having me here. So, what I want to start with is the future is already here, but it's, just not evenly distributed yet. And, some of the cases that Sanjay from, previous panel mentioned, or my colleagues and, esteemed speakers here mentioned, are already in the works and, being built out. And a lot of it has to do with the public digital infrastructure that is coming in India. So I think even today, and whenever I attend such events and conferences, I always hear the term that, we want to get this to be the next UPI of X, right? UPI has been such a astounding success that, we want to see UPI of X, come through, right? So the one key insight that we had a couple of years back around India's public digital infrastructure was that with the account aggregator initiative, with the Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission Initiative, and back then it was called NDHM, and the associated blueprints that came out in around 2017 or so, was that the consumer of the future will have complete ownership of their data, right? Their financial data, their health data, and subsequently we have these commerce and documentation sort of platforms like DigiLocker, and on the commerce side we have ONDC now sort of coming through. So the insight was that given these protocols, what is the customer experience going to be? And given that consumers have control of their data, what are the possibilities? So with that insight and what that future would look like, we then decided that we will make this future happen. And funnily enough, we decided to really focus and narrow down into the insurance sector, right? So I'll dive into some of the use cases that we've been building on the distribution side, right? So first off, when we talk about the account aggregator or the Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission, the quick 2-second summary of it is that you can link your financial data. We are talking about asset class data, right? We have our credit bureaus, you have your assets, your banks, your insurance policies, your mutual funds. I think just earlier today, there was a press release that NPS data is also going to be available on this protocol, right? And I think every bi-monthly DFS meeting, insurers have been getting the message that you have to go live on these protocols, right? So that infrastructure is now falling in place, and we said that given the mandate or the strong push that is say coming from the regulators, for industry to actually actively adopt and get to that customer-centric model that like Sir previously mentioned in his talk, you have to make sure that incentives are aligned and the unit economics of that said future work out, right? So how do we get there? And the analytics bit plays an integral role. So let's talk about a few use cases that we built around life, right? So first off, like Sir mentioned, three-click onboarding on the SBI customer on YONO. I think that is fantastic, but the future that we are now enabling is three-click onboarding, but for any customer, right? Provided they can give consent of their financial and health data, you can still deploy this, and you do not need to have the customer on file, So like when we go on a checkout on an e-commerce site, we have all these payment options, and even today, if you're going for say some buy now pay later option, you still need to have a account with that BNPL provider. But something equivalent here is also now changing, that even if you do not have the customer on file, you can still acquire that customer, understand that customer on the fly, and financially underwrite it, right? So that's one use case around digital onboarding for customers who you do not necessarily have some history on. And again, even in collections and frauds, there are actually some very interesting experiments and use cases that we are doing that for general insurance, because the average life cycle of a product is 12 to 14 months, and the frequency of claims is much higher. So there are use cases where I will not necessarily ping your data, but at the time of claims, I would be interested in knowing what were the financials or the relevant health history leading up to that claim, right? And subsequently using that and running my fraud and risk models. So these are a couple of use cases that I can elaborate on, and yeah. So with that, I hand over.
Thanks. I think very interesting set of use cases coming up. Prerak, coming to you. Insurtechs in general have played a very significant role. And I would say at one point in time, Policy Bazaar is also started as an insurtech, and now it is a very big listed insurtech, no doubt. It is the hotbed of innovation, right? And it is already big to some extent in distribution space. So what kind of models do you see evolving in this space? What kind of innovation do you see on the horizon in the insurtech space?
Hey, I know it's evening time. Can everyone wake up a little bit? Thank you, Srinivasan sir, for having us here. Thank you, NIA. Let me jump right in. So thank you. Actually, I get to foresee a little bit of what's happening in the future, right? So we've got Policy Bazaar, as you pointed out, that we all look up to, the original god of insurtech in India. And then we've got companies like Nikhil's company that are just coming up, right, up and down. So when we look at distribution, there are two broad themes that I can talk about. And I'm just looking out maybe at the next 18 months and looking at what is the kind of innovation that's actually possible when it comes to insurtech in distribution. The first theme that really stands out to me is actually what kind of innovation can insurtechs bring for distributions for SMEs in India. So if you classically look, in the last 18 to 24 months, we've got all these employee benefit startups that have come up. They've done very well. We all know and we've all heard about the Plums, the Nova benefits, the Passcares of the world. They brought in forward an excellent UI, excellent UX to change the customer experience. And more traditional intermediaries have woken up and said, hey, actually there was a different way to differentiate, and these guys have shown us a path. Now, these same EB companies are saying, hey, but where do I make money? Because EB doesn't make money. So they should actually adjacently start to look at SMEs and say, hey, how can I innovate on the fire and burglary experience? How can I sell a D&O cover, right, to that same customer? How do I sell a marine cargo cover to that same customer? So I think in the next 18 months, we will see a new set of insurtech distribution companies come up that will aim at these SMEs. Now let's pick up fire and burglary as a cover, right? Historically, an SME, which is already slightly unorganized against the larger players, you're asking them for a level of detail. As an insurer, you're asking them and saying, hey, can you give me the invoice from 5 years ago when you bought this product? Put down the serial number. Can you fill out this form in Excel and send it to me? Or sometimes fill out a physical proposal form. Then you've got a broker on the other side that's saying, hey, look, it's a decent premium, but I don't earn enough commission out of this to put in all this time and effort, so I will sell more EB, right? I'll try to sell more health products. That's actually what they do, right? So what's the role of insurtechs in distribution? Let's imagine again the fire and burglary cover. Can we actually again, using an app-based interface, now completely digitize this onboarding experience? Remove entire parts of the data collection, the underwriting, and use either a video interface or images. Right? Can we actually enable a POSP agent who can walk into a small shopkeeper's store, take a video of the entire store now? If there's a TV that he wants to insure, take the picture or a video of the TV's serial number and move on. And that becomes a source of underwriting as a source of data when you've actually issued the policy. It's done. And at the point of claim, we can actually pull out that old video. We can look at, if there's a fire, you can actually look at the structure. You can look at what is the same TV model. A good surveyor will be able to make out. There was proof, there was a serial number in there, there was some sort of estimated information given there. So I'm anticipating in the next 18 months, there will be a lot of insurtech companies that will suddenly refocus and say, hey, can I focus on distribution for SMEs or non-EB and bring a lot of innovation in that experience. That's one. The second big thing that I see is actually, again, the first bullet point that you had actually, which is digital enablement of the traditional channels. So I think all the traditional intermediaries have woken up. All the brokers have woken up, agents have woken up and said, oh no, these insurtechs are actually getting customer mind share, they're getting actually market share. So what is it that I want to do? I think about 2 years ago, a lot of them woke up and they said, hey, let me try to build my own technology. And then very rapidly realized that technology was not their DNA. They could not hire engineers, they could not hire UI, UX talent, they could not hire product managers. But thankfully now, we've got an entire segment of insurtech companies that are coming up in India that are pure technology companies. They don't have an intermediary license. And they're very clearly stating that, right? They go out to market and say, I don't have a license, I'm not competing with you, right? But hey, if you're a broker, take my platform, right? If you're an agent, take my platform. Let me give you the technology and I will charge you on a SaaS model, GWP-based model, anything and everything. So that's, I think, the second big wave we will see in the next 18 to 24 months, where traditional intermediaries will find these new platforms, partner with them, and actually go back out and start to compete again.
That's very interesting. So InsurTech space not only working at direct to customer, which is what we see in many of the other financial services industries, but more also in the ecosystem, which is a very interesting point. Anand, that brings me to a linked question, and also with respect to the, the development that is happening in the industry, there is, focus from the stakeholders, regulators to say that, okay, more needs to be given back to the customers, which means that, the productivity of the channel becomes very important. And insurance industry has traditionally very large physical distribution base. What role do you see that Nikhil was just alluding to, which is digitization of the channel? What kind of experience do you see digital helping in that arena?
My personal view is digitization is going to help the productivity in a huge way. And I give you an example of what we did in SBI Life. 99% of the proposals which are sourced through the agents or the banca channel come through this particular platform, which is called M-Connect. So end-to-end, complete digitized. And there you find that the turnover time is far better, the quality of data that the guy gets in is far better. We have used, the question what he was asking, we have used a lot of analytics in that. We have added AI, ML, because nowadays people don't believe in human intelligence, they want machine intelligence and machine knowledge and all that. So we have added all that into it, so it starts learning on its own and starts throwing up. To such an extent where on a digital platform, when the distributor is inputting the details that is required, he knows within 30 seconds whether this customer will be given this product per se or not. So you are a customer, I'm a distributor, I'm putting in all the details, I click it. It tells me whether this customer can be given this product or not. I said, oh, sorry, this customer can't be given this product. So there's a rule engine built into it, okay? So productivity of traditional channels supported by digital, either it is to InsurTech or internally, whichever way you look at it, is definitely going to help you in increasing the productivity. But how strong is your back-end systems for it? So it's not just the front end which helps. That's the reason I said digitization is not just putting everything which is physical on a digital platform and saying now we have digitized. It's the entire end-to-end, right, from one end to the other, where for a customer it's either 0 or 100, it's not 50%, okay? So your front-end systems have to completely change. Your back-end systems have to provide you that kind of support which is required either through analytical models, through AI models, through ML models and all that stuff. And more importantly, it's the mindset of the user which has to change. So whatever changes you bring in on the digital side, if it is not used, if it is not put into use, it's all down the drain. And once you do this, your cost 100% goes down. There is no doubt. I can prove it with numbers, I can prove it with examples, live examples. The cost of getting this business, cost of issuing a policy drastically goes down. Now, how do you use that and how do you pass on that benefit is something which you have to. New products you come out with, you get these things done, the cost of the premium will definitely go down. The customer will be benefited. Customer, see, today's customer doesn't mind if you charge him 1% plus minus as compared to some other customer, till the time your service is excellent. For example, if you buy a health policy from me, if you're getting into a hospital, you expect me to give you an authorization within the time you give, you call me up and I pick up the call and say yes. If I can't give you that, I'm of no use. I might put any systems in place. I might get the best of the infrastructure on the IT digital side and put it up. The customer experience, if it is not good, it's completely down the drain. So I am always a proponent. If you want to digitize something, don't go for a point solution. I have seen a lot of companies coming and saying, oh, we can give you this, we can give you that. I said, okay, demonstrate. So this is what we can do. I said, I'm not interested. I'm interested in end-to-end. Because if you ask me to take only this portion, then slowly you come and tell me your system is not ready to take the thing earlier or the thing behind. So you have to necessarily take my system. I'm not interested in that. Every company has its own system which they have put a lot of money and invested. How can we bring on digital assets on that and make it completely device agnostic? So whether I'm using a mobile, whether I'm using a laptop, an iPad, doesn't matter. Okay? You'll be surprised when we did into this digitization in a big way, we looked at which category of customers use this most. You'll be surprised from 18 to 25, the usage of buying policies is absolutely lowest. The maximum is between 25 and 35. Next best is 35 to 45, and then 45 to 55. Then again it tapers down. But if you look at 18 to 25, yes, they use Google a lot. Okay, so if you try and find out which sites they go, what do they do, you get a whole lot of information. But actual buying insurance policies, life general, lowest. That's the one it is looked at. So productivity, yes, 100% productivity goes up, cost goes down of doing, plus most importantly, the customer satisfaction, and that can be easily measured by NPS. So you find an NPS done, you'll easily find your NPS. First of all, the response increasing. Earlier, most of the guys who don't respond. But at least those response increase, and then you get a much better score as far as the NPS is concerned.
That's very interesting. I mean, you stressed quite a lot on the point that end-to-end delivery and not just point solution-based improvement. That brings me, Sarvi, to you. You are on the other side as a distributor, right? Looking at what Anand just said, from your perspective, as a distributor, what kind of expectations do you see from the insurers, from the customers, of intermediaries like yourself providing value-added services, more than what just policy booking or policy sales that happens? And what does it really take? I mean, you obviously work with a large number of insurers, right? So what does it really take to provide that value-added services or the end-to-end solution?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say that we are on the same side of the table. I think that's one very key belief that we have at Policy Bazaar, that insurers... and I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because I think that's a very important point, because there is a traditional or conventional way of distributor versus insurer, right, approach, and sometimes that view is still held by many people. But if you look at us, we look at it as a joint book of business. What we are saying is that if we are working with SBI General or SBI Life, what is the experience that SBI General has on our book of business? What is it that they are paying us? What is the loss ratio? What are their costs of management? And what is the total outcome? See, honestly, we sometimes focus too much on the cost of distribution. The cost of distribution for a GI company, let's say, and I'm just making up these numbers, out of 100 is 30. There is still 70, which is 2 times the cost of paying the distributor, which is going into losses, management, etc., etc. So actually, the focus for both of us is the same, that can we get a book of business at a reasonable price, which makes sense for the insurer and for us. Because if you are a distributor or intermediary who is going to be there for the long run, it is not in your interest to write book of business which is loss making. Because the minute that happens, eventually our relationship will break. So I think the first thing that we have to look at is, as an industry, that we have to look at it as common book of business. Now coming to the consumer side, one of the challenges of our industry is that no customer, almost nobody wakes up in the morning and says that today I'm going to buy insurance. right? People wake up saying, today I'm going to buy a phone, maybe I want to go for a holiday, maybe I want to do this or eat outside or do things. But very few people wake up in the morning and say, let me go and buy insurance. Now, that is actually a very fundamental challenge. And that is a challenge that, again, I believe is overlooked. When we speak about digitization, and I think Anand was making that point, that it's not just about the back end, it's actually the front end which matters more. Can we create the awareness amongst the consumers that yes, you need to buy insurance? Why do you need to buy insurance? Why do you need to buy it now? And what happens if you don't have it? So that awareness building, I think, is something which we have to remember is key. Because honestly, if you ask me, if the customer is coming to me, even if I have to write the policy by hand, right, and have an Excel sheet or Google sheet behind rather than having a very elaborate system, I can manage, because eventually I will develop the system. So the system comes second. I think what comes first is creating the demand and creating the awareness. And now if you look at it, what does today's customer want? Today's customer wants simple process, they want clarity. Now, the main challenge is they want clarity. Now let me give you a few examples, right? We have issues like pre-existing diseases. We have issues like, was your no-claim bonus correct or wrong? Now, apart from the few percentage of people who may be saying something on purpose, who may be trying to take advantage of the system, the vast majority of people are not trying to take advantage. But when we deny the claim, at the point of claim, saying that, sir, your NCB was declared to be 20% and actually it is 10%, that person gets completely lost. That person says that this insurance company, or more equally, they'll say Policybazaar tried to fraud me out of my claim. They took the premium from me but did not pay me. Why did you not tell me that my NCB was 10%? Now again, we have great answers because data access is not allowed, etc., etc. But no one cares about that. So I think the customer expectation is very clear. Keep the process very simple, that if I fall ill, I will get paid. If my car has an accident, you will take care of it. Why is zero debt suddenly becoming so popular? Because it solves this problem that, okay, I'll pay you extra today. I don't mind paying you 20, 30, 40% extra today, but at the time of claim, don't ask me any other question. So I think the way forward is very, very clear. The customer is speaking very clearly. We have to simplify, we have to explain, we have to make sure that the claims are paid on time and in full. And I think what we will find is that the demand for this product is phenomenal. Because if you think about it, in a country like India, there is no social security beyond a point. We cannot afford it at this stage of nation building that we are in. There is no better way to solve problems of life and health without insurance. So I think the main thing is simplicity, very clear customer experience, and I think distributors and insurers being on the same side of the table.
Thanks. Prerak, I'll come to you again. What this discussion just talked about was how, it's just one customer, one, so to say, service proposition that distributors and insurers have to deliver together, and not just distributors. There is a larger ecosystem which is also involved in the claim settlement servicing side. But if you look at the models in which the distributors or insurtechs work with the insurers, right? It is typically the distributor relationship or maybe just a service provider vendor kind of relationship. What kind of innovation or what kind of collaboration models have you seen abroad? White labeling, joint ventures, stakes, etc. Any more such? And what do you think where India will move, and what kind of things that you see, starting gaining roots?
It's an interesting question. So first, actually, what I'll say is India is at a very interesting point, and I'll talk about general insurance and not life. Life, we've got more maturity. But in general insurance, on one side, we've got low penetration. We are saying that, hey, a large part of India is either uncovered or undercovered or unserved completely for different lines of businesses, right? We took the SME example right before this and found uncovered D&O insurance, barely any SME business in India will have. So one of the things I think is, which is going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years is that first and foremost, the insurance companies will turn around and say, we can't be everything to everyone insurers. So there'll be the big insurers such as SBI General, Bajaj Allianz General, ICICI Lombard, New India, which will continue to, I think, serve very large segments across the board, SME corporate retail. But a lot of the other insurance companies, even the ones in the middle of the pack, the ones that are just coming up, will have to take a call. And they'll have to take a call and say, hey, I will play for specific customer segments in specific lines of businesses. And within that, I've got to go create a moat for myself. Now, that is where I think the collaboration with very specific distribution partners can come in, whether they're InsurTech or FinTech or digital ecosystem distribution partners, or say pure technology InsurTechs may come in. Because at that point of time, the insurance company can go and say that, look, if I will only focus on providing D&O insurance to SMEs of India, they may find like a Khata book, or they may find like a Pagar book, or they might find like a POS system or a Tally, go partner with them and say, hey, can I actually form a distribution partnership with you, and also post consent from the corporate or the company, also get access to that data in a more digital way to be able to actually form now a value proposition that maybe my other larger competitors may not get to for a bit, right? Or they may say it's too small for me, I don't care, I don't want to get to it. So that relationship, I think, will first and foremost needs to come from a little bit of focus. The distribution partnerships, I think, will become very interesting in times to come. We have the pure InsurTechs. We've got the traditional intermediates that will become digitally enabled. But the digital ecosystem players, which is the adjacent ecosystems of FinTech, Health Tech, Mobility Tech, Agri-Tech, they're the ones who are really going to push penetration into the next level, right? And those partnerships can be, depending on how regulations shape up, could be either a distribution partnership, or could be a distribution partnership and a value-added services partnership, where that same player could also play a role in claims adjudication, could play a role in risk management, could play a role in actually, providing basic technology to, that end customer for agriculture or mobility, right? That might turn out to be the case. So these will change. Abroad, actually, we've seen the MGA model. The MGA model has worked very well in other markets, where depending on the capability of the InsurTech, they can be given either an underwriting pen, or they can be given a claims pen, or they can be given or a distribution pen, right? And they act on behalf of the insurer, and they've got a book to bind. So those can possibly come in India depending on how regulations shape up. Yeah.
That's interesting, which effectively alludes to a larger ecosystem kind of a play, right? I mean, in an ecosystem, different players play different roles, but put together, that ecosystem serves the end customer requirement. Nikhil, coming back to you, if I were to look at it from an ecosystem standpoint, right, there are obviously a few which the government is, let's say, looking to build in some form. There are some enablers which are being put in. What kind of models do you see ecosystems kind of playing in this? And a linked question to that is, many a times these ecosystems suffer from ability to move data or insights within, the ecosystem participants, right? Do you see that as a hindrance, or is that an opportunity? Which way you look at it?
Right. So what I want to preface this with is that any ecosystem is as good as its participants, right? You may put out a protocol out in the world and open source it, but it is only as good as the participants who are willing to adopt it and see it through. So I think Chairman Sir talked about the AAA sort of framework earlier around accessibility, affordability, and awareness, right? When it comes to these open digital ecosystems or these public digital infrastructure, the internal framework that we've been picking on is trust, utility, and ubiquity. So what I mean by that is, first we need to make sure that given this is out there in the wild now, do people understand what it is, and is there trust, right? Subsequently, if there is trust to use this, I am not going to wake up tomorrow and download a account aggregator app or create a ABHA ID, right? There has to be a clear utility which is driving me to actually use this, and this can be an embedded journey at the checkout of, say, an insurance product, and that's how we've built it out. But the entire point is there has to be clear utility for end users to use this, right? And subsequently, a key reason why I say something like UPI was extremely successful is that it was ubiquitous. It was everywhere, and the cost to educate and build awareness for the end customers was distributed. It was not just one private entity which bore the cost, but it was Tez, Google Pay, it was Phone Pay, it was Amazon Pay, it was all of these banks, of course, building their own first-party apps, and more critically, we had somebody like NPCI also come through and not only actively support it but build an ecosystem around it. So that's the key focus that we've been going after, and I will give you guys a fairly counterintuitive insight. So when we built out these connectors and protocols and use cases for life and general insurers, initially we thought that will end customers consent to share their data, and given the right information and awareness, are the customers willing to consent? And turns out that was a much smaller factor. What was a much bigger factor was that how willing are the agents actually to convince the customer and build that trust. So when we track NPS right now, we are tracking NPS around agents who do the distribution with the life and general insurers, when they're asking for customer consent to share their data, and not necessarily the end customer experience right now. And that is because we are in a transitionary phase. So it's like UPI was launched in September of 2016, and I think really Google Pay and Phone Pay really came guns blazing around Jan of 2017. So we are probably in November or December of 2016 when it comes to these protocols of open health and open finance. In the sense, somebody still needs to now deploy that capital, educate the customer, build awareness, and ultimately this will be reaped by the entire ecosystem. So we need a mutual fund sahi hai, we need that kind of collective industry push to sort of come together, and protocols are great, but they're just blueprints. So again, it's only as good as the weakest link, as good as the weakest adopter. So that's how we've been able to just do our thing, in the sense where we said that we'll go deep in use cases and utility, and focus on trust, and ubiquity should hopefully follow as a function if we get these two right. So that's my take on these protocols.
Thank you. We'll open the discussion for a few questions from the audience. Any questions from the students, from the dignitaries?
Hello. Yeah, hi, good evening. My name is Ram. My question goes to Anand. So across SBI Life and GI, you've experimented a lot, and of course you've scaled rural distribution models. Would you like to tell us specifically if any sachet products have worked, and what kind of digitization you undertake for such products for them to be completed in a 3-step process?
Thanks for the question. See, in SBI, we have to look at the entire gamut. So it can't be just one product, because what sells in metro urban doesn't sell in rural and semi-urban areas. And you'll be surprised, SBI's 47% of the bank branches operate out of semi-urban and rural areas. Okay, so plus you look at the entire pyramid. It starts from the below poverty line, which is the Jan Dhan Yojana, right up to the super HNIs and NRIs who are there. So we have product for every segment that is there. Like the MD of LIC was mentioning about the micro insurance product. This will be a classic example. We were asked to come out with a micro insurance product because SBI has got almost 38 lakh SHGs all over the country, which they also finance, some of them. So what we did, we went and sat with them and understood what is the purpose of SHG and how they look at insurance. And we were told that the ladies basically want to, are into SHG movement because they want to support the family with income and also save for a rainy day. So we came out with a fantastic product 1 rupee a day, 300 rupees a year, 25,000 rupees cover, nothing happens, we return the premium back to you. So the concept of the cover that you would probably get in case something happens to you. Now this again, being a micro insurance, becomes a very difficult proposition as far as cost is concerned if I have to do it through a physical process. Next to impossible, it just can't manage in that. So obviously we had to push it through a digital platform. So SBI Life generated a digital platform, and through that we got the thing done. Same thing with SBI General. We have now come out with a specific product for SHG called Kutumba Swasthya Bima Yojana, which is a combination of 2 or 3 things which are important for that segment of population that we are looking at. Now again, if we have to get into that particular mode, the premiums are so small that again physical distribution is out of question. You can't give commission to banks the way normally the distributors would like to have. So the best way is to do it through a digital platform. So whichever product you want, it can become, and nowadays it's almost a rule. I think people like us with grey hair will agree that when we first started working, we had those glass bottles of shampoo. That has all gone down. Now you have small sachets of shampoo. Insurance is exactly going the same way. Now you go and refill your mobile, and you can take a 28-day insurance, health insurance, or life insurance, which was unheard of at one point of time. So sachet products will come. That is the need of the hour. If you want to penetrate the rural market, that's exactly what is want. It will have to be very simpler products, even if you want to put it on an app and ensure that people start using that app and make it a thing. And more importantly, for that class of population, what we found is the payment of claim and timely payment of claim is very, very important, because that is what spreads. What MD of LIC was saying is exactly what it is. The word of mouth saying that yes, I had this policy, or my parents had this policy, and something happened and I got the money within 2 days of I lodging the claim. You will be surprised, in PMJJBY in SBI Life, we created a platform, a digital platform in-house, which takes care of right from enrollment of a customer to payment of a claim without paper. In fact, DFS liked it so much that now they have taken this entire platform. They also asked a few of the other companies to use it. The bank branch manager used to look at the original, certify it, and just scan it to us. That's all. Based on that, the entire processing of the proposal used to happen. Complete digital platform with no physical forms moving from one end to the other. And fortunately, regulator was very kind enough, proactive, to give you an OTP facility which is there. Use the OTP facility and get it done. So again, very small amount, sachet products, easily known to the customer, simple to use, simple to sell, simple to understand. So we can give you so many of these examples which are there both on life and non-life side, which is possible.
Great. Thank you, Anand.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, my panel members. It's a real pleasure. It was a great discussion chatting with you. Thank you so much. With this, I'll bring this panel discussion to the closure. Thank you.
All right. With this, thank you all the experts for your valuable insights that you have given us, and thank you so much for engaging such a wonderful discussion.
Now, I will request Dr. Sanjay Mali sir, Principal PGDM NIA, to present memento as a token of gratitude to all the dignitaries.